The Starr and D'Amico Show is brought to you by cheapesttshirts.ca. If you're looking for quality gear without overpaying, shop cheapesttshirts.ca. Huge selection for men, women, and kids. Tees, hoodies, headwear, bags, and more. Proud Montreal business. Order today, ship today, delivery tomorrow. That's cheapesttshirts.ca. Local, fast, and affordable. Brought to you by instacustoms.com. Do you need custom gear from a local Montreal business? Instacustoms.com has you covered. Custom shirts, hoodies, hats, and more made your way. Fast turnaround, great quality, and proudly Montreal-based. Check out instacustoms.com. Brought to you by Cabletel. For trusted alarm systems in Quebec and Eastern Ontario, choose Cabletel. Over 20 years of expert installation and top-tier protection for homes and businesses. Check out Cabletel.com. Email them info@Cabletel.com. It's Cabletel. Peace of mind you can count on. Brought to you by Morella's Steakhouse. Looking for an unforgettable night out? Morella's Steakhouse on Highway 132. It's just 15 minutes from Montreal, serving up premium cuts and bold flavors, and no tax on your bill. Book your table tonight at morellassteakhouse.ca. Taste excellence tonight. Brought to you by Little Bear. Give your pet the best with Little Bear Pet Supply. It's a proudly family-owned business here in Montreal for over 30 years. Chuck, Evie, and their all-star staff have you taken care of with all the top brands at the best prices, and they really care for your pets. Shop online at littlebearonline.com or visit them on St. Catherine across from Westmount Square. It's Little Bear Pet Supply. Brought to you by McLean's Pub. Head over to McLean's Pub, 1210 Peel Street in the heart of downtown Montreal. Great food, cold drinks, and big games on all the screens. McLean's Pub, good times and great company. Always great to be here live with you in the aftermath of every Montreal Canadiens game. There's Marco D'Amico. I am Shaun Starr. And it's always fun to react to breaking news around the Montreal Canadiens in the aftermath of Jakub Dobes and Phil Danault and Oliver Kapanen and Jake Evans helping propel the Canadiens to a 3-1 Tuesday night win at the Bell Centre over their division rival in the Toronto Maple Leafs. Onward to Ottawa tonight at 7:30. And the breaking news, if you're joining us now, the Montreal Canadiens have recalled goaltender Jakub FOWLER. Marco, good morning. You are our guest, as you are every Wednesday on TSN 690 for Habs Breakfast. And then during that conversation, we asked you about Jakub FOWLER, and he played one game coming back from pretty much a 3-week battle with an illness. And lo and behold, I don't think any of us were thinking after one game it was going to be a FOWLER recall, but here we are reacting to the news today. Your initial thoughts on the Canadiens making that decision?
Well, it's kind of hilarious because I spoke to Jakub one-on-one a couple of days ago, specifically about this reality. And you know, I put out my interview this morning for those that want to go and check it out. It's
with RG, by the way, rg.org. You can find it there.
Exactly. I could well, for those that follow me on social, it's on my page. You can go and find it. If not, I could throw it in the links here. But all, you know, to keep things all, you know, kosher, he was ready for the opportunity. He was, you know, we were talking about his last year. Like, we all remember how Jakub FOWLER started his pro career, right? Signed right out of the NCAA, played a game or two in Montreal, in Laval. But then, you know, he goes back to Boston College to like empty out his locker and get his room stuff and start moving his stuff to Laval. And on his drive back, he gets a call from his agent, same agent as Lane for that matter. And he's like, hey, Samuel Montembeault got injured. Caden Primo just got called up. There's a really good chance that you start the first game of the playoffs for the Laval Rocket. And we all know how that went out. He was fantastic for the Laval Rocket in the time that he played, even earned a shutout as he was the #1 goalie for the first, I believe, 4 or 5 games against the Cleveland Monsters in the first round of the Laval playoffs. So in my opinion, I believe him. This is a guy that's consistently been thrust into the frying pan and has come out looking golden almost every single time. Mm-hmm. And he said it to me, like, we go back, like, I think I've spoken to Jake like 6 or 7 times over the last like 2 years, outside of just, you know, in the locker room. And every single time it's the same thing. No one thought much of this goaltender throughout the entirety of his career. wasn't drafted in the USHL, was not chosen for the US national development team, was drafted in the 3rd round, was what, the 4th or 5th goalie in the 2023 draft to go, when they were littered all over the 2nd round. You had Guyan, you had Augustine, you had a bunch of higher name goaltenders, but he was the one in his draft year that led his USHL club, the Youngstown Phantoms, I believe, to the USHL championship. So again, like, just, this is a guy that consistently just proves people wrong. And I feel like in a situation like this, I don't know how you make an argument where you don't say he is this, at least the 2nd best goaltender in the Montreal Canadiens organization at this time. And if that's the case and you have the flexibility, play him.
The Canadiens have a handful of call-ups. I haven't seen anything, and
5.
correct me if I haven't seen anything, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I haven't seen any language that says it was an emergency call-up. We know Cole Caulfield is battling something. We just spoke moments ago about Jakub Fowler having an illness. Now, obviously, he's not a Canadian. You know, he was dealing with that with the Laval Rocket, but there's been no language, right, about emergency call-up. From what I read, it was just a straight call-up decision, right?
Mm-hmm. The Canadiens confirmed that Jakub Fowler, Samuel Montembeault, and Jakub Dobes are all healthy. All healthy. So there is no, this is a regular call-up. An emergency call-up required for different positions means that you have to have less than 12 healthy forwards, or less than 6 healthy defensemen, or less than 2 healthy goalies. And if the Canadiens just confirmed to us that both Montembeault and Dobes are healthy, then this is a regular recall. One of the 5. It used to be 4, but as of this season, it is 5. 5 recalls you can do between the trade deadline and the end of the season.
I'm fascinated. I don't know about you, but I'm fascinated with the timeline of all of this. You know, in all honesty,
I'll
put all my cards on the table. I was thoroughly confused of why Jakub Dobes got the start against Toronto, knowing they were playing the first of a back-to-back. I don't know if the Fowler announcement of the call-up, or the recall, excuse me, and the drop at 10 o'clock this morning, if that was something that was pre-planned. Did he travel with the team last night? Did he jump on the charter to Ottawa? Is he driving there now to, you know, I don't know, to be a part of the team?
So the Montreal Canadiens left the game immediately after the game yesterday.
Yeah.
Via train to Ottawa.
Okay.
So I don't know if he was with them in that regard. I didn't see him in the press box at the Bell Center.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. This is a comment I've been getting a lot, and I would like to address this.
And the comment is Monty on waivers, question mark.
I was about to enunciate it. I'm sorry, Shaun. You cannot waive a player that was on your NHL roster as of the trade deadline. You cannot waive players anymore unless it's for the purpose of contract termination.
Yeah.
So you cannot waive Patrick Laine. You cannot waive Montembeault. The Canadiens are where they are, and that is what it is. You can theoretically still complete a trade as of this point in time, but the player that's traded would be ineligible for the playoffs. So you'd have to basically trade a Montembeault or a Patrick Laine to a non-playoff team, a team that's willing to take them on, which I unless incentivized, I wouldn't see why they would do that. So forget waivers. Waivers ain't happening. It's more likely than not that Jakub Fowler gets recalled a couple of times than, you know, seeing Samuel Montembeault getting waived is just not happening. So the only thing that I could potentially think of in a situation is if one of the goalies gets injured and he gets to be recalled on an emergency basis. Mm-hmm. The only other thing you need to consider here is the salary cap. Now that the Canadiens have recalled Jakub Fowler, they cannot recall another player from Laval. So they are stuck.
So, I mean, it just makes the call-up so interesting. I mean, are they going to bounce him back and forth? I mean, or is today's announcement of Fowler recalled to join the team in Ottawa at 7:30 tonight? Can you see this as he's here? He's here for the rest of the season?
I doubt that. I do doubt that. I think the recall is timely in the sense that you're home. They weren't going to recall him while he was on the road trip, while the Canadiens were in California. He was sick for 3 weeks prior to his return to play for Laval on Friday. So 5 days ago was his first game in 3 weeks. And it was a good game. It was a 4-2 win in Laval. He was named the first start, not by chance. He was excellent. But now that the Canadiens have 2 back-to-backs in a row, right? They have tonight, which is a back-to-back. And then Saturday, Sunday is San Jose, Anaheim, back-to-back, which is exciting because the Canadiens just finished playing them. But I wouldn't be shocked if we see a Boston College clash between Will Smith and Jakub Fowler.
Fun.
And a BU clash between Macklin Celebrini and Lane Hudson on is it Saturday night? I think it's Saturday night, San Jose.
And it's funny to go back to the timeline of all of this, right? If it were up to me, and not that it ever is, I would have Jakub Dobes in Ottawa tonight. I would. I thought it was a low effort, 17 save. He was good. I would start him again tonight. And I'm going to put my cards on the table for you. I'm going to tell you like kind of my timeline of what I thought was going to happen before Jakub Fowler got recalled, Marco. And I want your reaction to this. That Monty was going to get one of the 2 Ontario games. He's going to get one of the 2 Pacific games, Saturday, Sunday, right? And that by Tuesday, in a massive game on St. Patrick's Day against the Boston Bruins, if Montembeault hadn't looked the part, hadn't played the part, at that point by Tuesday of next week, Marco, I was ready to see Jakub Fowler recalled and the Montreal Canadiens stop trying to, as this commenter points out, Montembeault has received second chances for 5 months. It's about time. I would echo that sentiment. I feel like you do. And thanks for the comment today. What about this? I mean, what do you think about tonight in Ottawa then? I mean, with the recall and the announcement of Jakub Fowler recalled, how do you see the goaltending? Who starts and who backs up?
I would be absolutely on the floor. I will take a picture of me floored if Jakub Fowler does not play tonight. You do not waste. You do not waste one of your 5 call-ups to sit Fowler on the bench.
Yeah.
You don't. You do not. And so this is what it is. When it comes to tonight,
I'm surprised to hear that for you.
Money on Fowler.
I'm
money
surprised
on Fowler
because to me that sounds as risky to me as playing Sam Montembeault. It does. He's played one.
Fowler?
He's out for 3. Yes, Marco. He's played one game at the AHL level.
I think it's a better option to play. Like, you didn't have to do this now. Think about this, right? There's salary cap that comes into this. You could have accrued more cap space by delaying this call-up to the weekend if he wasn't playing tonight. There is I tend to keep things civil and like profound and not try to throw myself out there with the take. If Jakub Fowler doesn't play tonight, I am on the floor.
I want to see a picture.
Like, take it. The Canadiens haven't confirmed whether or not he's starting. That's what I'm trying to figure out. So I apologize if I'm not always looking at the screen. Okay, cool. Martin St. Louis is slated to speak around 5, and he'll announce it then, is what we're being told.
Wow.
If the words out of his mouth are not Jakub Fowler, Marco, I will, for Dragon Ball Z fans, I'm literally going to be Yamcha on the floor. For those that don't get that reference, I'm really sorry, and we'll send you a picture on social media. But I think it is very clear, very, very clear that the Canadiens do not have the necessary confidence in Samuel Montembeault's game. Jakub Dobes, 18 saves yesterday, not very busy, but made some clear good saves when he needed to, especially in the second period and on that first period strike right after they scored a goal. He was clutch when he needed to be. So to me, Jakub Dobes, to me, assured worst case scenario 1B status, if not 1A. And then you just have Jakub Fowler kind of come in. What this spells to me is I do not believe that Samuel Montembeault will be a Montreal Canadien, come next training camp.
I mean, was the straw the Anaheim game? the shots from distance
Yes.
and
Yeah.
the
Oh, yeah.
trial, the continued effort, Marco, to get him back on track. I mean, and I
Look,
think we've been beating this drum for a while. Like, it's a very important season. They've been very competitive. We've said it. Like, the
yeah.
experimentation period is over.
Look, I'm going to tell you this because I deal with the human being. And a AAA person, just absolutely fantastic to talk to.
Yeah.
May take you a little bit of time to get used to how fast he speaks, but just
Yeah.
a giant teddy bear, one of the nicest athletes you're ever going to come across. But I just don't feel like it's going to work out for him in Montreal. I feel like if you're going to ensure the transition, because I would be very surprised if they go Dobes and Fowler next season, like two young rookie goalies. That doesn't always, well, I mean, sophomore in the case of Dobes next year, but I just don't see that happening. But I think this kind of gives the Canadiens, and giving Fowler games, it gives the Canadiens an idea of how close Fowler actually is at this point, so they can make more educated decisions this summer on what to do with goaltending. Because I strongly believe that you can go Dobes, veteran goalie, and then leave Jakub Fowler at least to start the season in Laval, and then eventually see how things evolve throughout the season. There is an opportunity for that. But if Jakub Fowler can show that he is 100% ready for the NHL, the Canadiens may change their mind.
I need you to make it make sense. As Diane here writes, skeptical that a low number of actual saves made during a game equates to less than a full game's worth of energy, mental and physical, having been expelled. That I don't discount. I don't discount that. And he was fantastic when Toronto brought the jam and the energy, and credit to them for it looked like Montreal was going to run him out of the rink in the first period, 18-5 shots, and then Toronto outshot them in the second period, right?
Yeah,
exactly. I'm not discounting the preparation, the mental output of playing goal in the NHL. I think I can confidently state that, having never sniffed the National Hockey League. But walk me through again why it makes sense to you to play Jakub Fowler, with the context being often illness. He's played one game at the pro level in the last 3 weeks, going into a massive game on the road against a team like Montreal that has picked up points in almost every game they've played, and how big this is in the standings. Why does it make sense to you to play Fowler tonight in Ottawa?
Honestly, the feels.
Okay. I respect the feel. I'm a feel guy. I respect that.
I think everybody can say it. I think with as much respect anybody could have for Sam Montembeault, you need a goalie that's shown you that they can give you that timely save. And if it's not Dobes, the only other goalie in the organization that can actually say that they've done so, I mean, he had a shutout, is Jakub Fowler. So to me, no problem with that. Zero problem with that. Now, the Canadiens' defense is going to have to play tight in front of them like they did in front of Dobes last night. Because the Ottawa Senators, if the Canadiens play the same way they did in the second period against the Leafs as they do the Ottawa Senators, they will get burned. Doesn't matter who the goalie is. So I don't believe that this is kind of going to be a problem for him. I think Jakub Fowler is great. Jake Sanderson is completely out of the picture for Ottawa. May not even come back this season, according to some people that I've spoken to. Right. Shoulder situation.
They called them week to week. Their official line was week to week.
Yeah. We've all been there before. You could definitely play with a shoulder issue, but again, that opens you up to a whole risk of other slew of issues. And I think Jakub Fowler is the kind of goalie that could steal you this game if need be. And it's not for naught that an organization would trust him to get that win. Remember, he was very strong in divisional games against, for example, the Boston Bruins in the game that he played in Boston right before Christmas on the 23rd. Like, that was excellent. I think Jakub Fowler is going to run away with this if given the opportunity. And as long as the Canadiens don't just absolutely open the floodgates to Ottawa in terms of shots and in terms of high danger shooting opportunities.
Again, you referenced the 5 call-ups, right? So Jakub Fowler recalled at 10 o'clock this morning ahead of the Habs at Ottawa at 7:30. We're going to talk about Michael Hage on the channel tomorrow. And And what about David? Like, let me bring David Reinbacher into the chat. You know, in 6 games with Laval, he's been in beast mode, picking up points on the plus side of the plus minus. Marco playing heavy minutes. How close is he to being a call-up option? Our friend and colleague Brian Wild, in his write-up after the Habs beat the Leafs last night, he'd like to see him called up ASAP, like yesterday. I think if it were up to Brian. So there's another call-up, which again ties me back into the question I asked you: is Fowler here permanente? Because now you're starting to run out of call-ups here if we're yo-yoing guys back and forth.
Well, I don't think so, right? Because there's not going to be any call-ups at forward. They have 15 forwards.
Yes,
15
yeah, they got
healthy forwards. So that ain't happening there. The only goalie they're calling up is Fowler, if at all. And defensively, the only defenseman that they can call up at this moment that would make any sense is David Reinbacher.
Right.
The benefit that Canadians have is the fact that there's 5 call-ups this year as opposed to 4 last year. Mm-hmm. I think they can leave David Reinbacher alone. As long as Lane Hudson can hold down the fort playing on the right side, then we're good.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think the Canadians are going to be fine. The only thing I would tell you is, of the options, there's 3 players the Canadians can call up: Engstrom, Reinbacher, Fowler.
Yeah.
The rest I don't see happening until the playoffs. And after the playoffs, you can call up whoever you want, whenever you want. You can have black aces. But I think that the Canadians are going to want to leave Laval alone as much as possible, because Laval also needs to make the playoffs and they want home ice advantage again. So, I think that they could stay in that regard. I feel like this won't be the last time Jacob Fowler gets called up. I don't think that he's here to stay for the rest of the season. I think he's here because of the sheer frequency of games between now and the middle of next week.
So you think maybe at this time next week, did they get through the stretch of Ottawa and then the California teams this weekend and then Boston on Tuesday?
Yeah, I think Jakub Dobes is the unquestioned number 1 at this point.
Yeah.
You can keep Montembeault on the bench, and when there's a back-to-back situation, you just call up Jacob Fowler. And lo and behold, if you look at the Canadian schedules, or the schedule, just one, all the back-to-back games are grouped together. They're all one after the other. Like all the next back-to-back games are at like the end of March, beginning of April, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Right. So they all come back to back. That's when I could see Jacob Fowler getting called again. This is, but why waste a call up if he plays well? It makes no sense. Salary cap. You want to see Michael Hage at the end of this season?
Mm-hmm.
Salary cap. The less time he spends on the main roster, the better.
Yeah.
So you have to keep that into consideration when it comes to the roster management between now and the end of the season. And I'll go one further than that. When it comes to thinking about how that structure is going to look like, those that want to see David Reinbacher called up, they can't do that right now with Jacob Fowler called up. They had $1.7 million in cap space before Fowler's call up. They now have $800,000.
Right.
Just under $800,000. David Reinbacher makes close to about $850,000, $900,000. So there's no way to make him fit because you can't waive any players.
Marco's going to do a good job of dissecting the Michael Hage and the logistics, whether it's around the timing of the call up, when, and again, putting it in context of managing the salary cap. And this in the aftermath of Oliver Kapanen hitting one of his bonus clauses with his 20th goal of the year. That's a $250,000 bonus payout to the Canadiens rookie. And just to clean it up, Marco talked about the remaining back-to-backs. Obviously, they'll play the second leg of one tonight. And then they got the California team Saturday and Sunday night. And as usual, Marco was right. The 28th and 29th of March, Nashville and Carolina, both of those are road games. They play the 4th and 5th, home and home with the Devils. And then the 11th and 12th, home to Columbus, and then at the New York Islanders. So those are the remaining back-to-backs once you get through in Ottawa tonight, and then looking forward to the Saturday-Sunday dip against those California teams. Thanks for being with us here live on this Wednesday morning. With over 800 people watching us live, we certainly appreciate the support and all the comments coming in. Make sure, if you haven't already, to like today's video to help spread the word, and subscribe to the ever-growing channel that is the Starr and D'Amico Show, getting close to 14,000
We are
14,000 subscribers.
We are about 45, 47 subscribers away from 14,000. Man, you would have told me that a year ago, I would have dropped.
Yeah.
I would again be on the floor.
That's two floor references. Let's get to 14,000 today on this live stream. That would be fantastic. And as always, get those super chats going. We'll put up some of the better ones on the screen as we move along today live on the Starr and D'Amico show. So obviously, if you're just joining us, Jakub Fowler has been recalled. Marco strongly believes it's going to be a Jakub Fowler game today. And just to wrap up the goalie discussion before we get into the X's and O's of the Canadiens' 3-1 win at home against Toronto, a lot of this, and we referenced this before, December 6th and 7th, the Canadiens beat the Leafs in a shootout. Jakub Dobes played. They lost to the St. Louis Blues after they had a first period lead. And Dobes played back-to-back. I guess the numbers and just the way games are managed in today's NHL, Marco, it just flat out doesn't make sense to play Dobes in back-to-back. Is it as simple as that?
Well, I mean, if you could avoid it.
If you could avoid it, yeah.
Avoid it, right? Oh, thank you, Nicholas. I appreciate that. Really sorry that Crosby didn't work out last week.
There's always the summer, Marco. There's always the summer.
There's always every day until he retires, and even then.
That's right. As a Penguin.
Say it again.
Yeah, as a Penguin.
As it pertains, I know a lot of people asked about Cole Caulfield, for example.
Yeah.
So we confirmed that there is no injury for Cole Caulfield, which is great news for you guys.
Yeah.
Martin St. Louis confirmed to us that it was an illness that he's been dealing with since the beginning, since the tail end of the road trip in California. So I don't think that anybody needs to worry too much about that right now. He is very much going to be, he traveled with the team, first and foremost. He traveled with the team to Ottawa. That wouldn't happen if there was any risk to injury whatsoever.
Right.
It's a back-to-back. It's a train ride to and back. They wouldn't have chanced it in any way, shape, or form. So from what I'm being told, nothing to worry about in the form of Cole Caulfield. But I always say this. With injury or illness, I guess, comes opportunity. And boy, did Ivan Demidov have opportunity to show off what he can do and how his game has evolved since the start of the season, Shaun.
Mm-hmm. Lots to take away from the game last night, brother. Obviously, you dipped in and you watched the game the first 20 minutes. You're like, wow. And Craig Berube called his team out. He's like, listen, we're playing the rival Montreal Canadiens. He called them the organization's biggest rivalry. And you can't get up for a game like that. There are bigger questions than what are currently being asked in Toronto. Well, it looked like after 20 minutes, the Canadiens were going to run him off the floor, right? What happened in that second period? I mean, obviously, a team comes with pride and they played with pride and Toronto really pushed back. Was there anything concerning, not only in the second period, but ultimately that Montreal, it took them until 19:30 of the third period to put the kill shot in on the Toronto Maple Leafs? Was there anything concerning about how Montreal ultimately won that hockey game?
I think they just got sloppy at the end. In the middle of the game.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. They got really sloppy. And, I wasn't necessarily a fan of their second period. I thought that they were much better at defending in the third. And Jakub Dobes came up big for tell me about it. Jakub Dobes came up big in that context in the second period. And as the Leafs poured it on, what I would say though, you look at the way that Mike Matheson played in the third period. Like what a game I have all the time in the world for that. All the time in the world. And I thought that it was well executed. I didn't feel like he was out of place much, except for the only goal that Toronto scored. There was a miscue between him and Dobson as to who was covering who, and then Nick Suzuki not getting Matthews kind of confused everybody. But I really liked the defense that I saw from Mike Matheson, and I think it kind of reassured me a little bit because Toronto was given mostly nothing. Like all of their shots came from the periphery because they just kept getting boxed out. That's the kind of defense I want to see moving forward from this team if they're going to be, a playoff team in name, not simply just in standing.
Mm-hmm. The best line for the Montreal Canadiens last night, we saw some solid standout individual performances. Juraj Slafkovsky looked like a man possessed, power forward in the making, trying to split Maple Leaf defenders up the middle tried to do that a few times. And certainly love the effort level and the skill from Ivan Demidov on Oliver Kapanen's 20th of the season. Walk me through how those guys looked in your eye and the Canadiens' best performing line last night in the 3-1 win.
Well, who was on that line? Because that line moved around a little bit, did it not?
Yes, it did.
So are we going to go with the nucleus of like Suzuki, Slavkovsky? Are we going to talk about how they looked with Demidov on that line?
Well, that I want to save because that, I've been waiting for that for a long time when we finally got a taste of it because of the illness that Cole Caulfield was dealing with and tried to battle through. But let's start with how the game started with Kapanen, Slavkovsky, and Demidov. Newhook, excuse me. I meant Newhook.
Yeah, exactly. So I think first and foremost, I've been waiting to see. This is really like the last leg of the season, right? I don't think this is not shocking. And in this stage of the season, games get tighter unless you're the Buffalo Sabres, apparently. But games get tighter, systems get tighter. There's less opportunity on the ice. So how do you make opportunity? How do you make ice for yourself? Well, you got to beat a guy one-on-one, or you have to be able to kind of, outsmart them.
Mm-hmm.
We saw both of those things from Ivan Demidov last night. And I think I'm starting to see this young man modify his game in a way that is more conducive to long-term success on North American ice in a North American game, because they do play on NHL ice in the KHL now. He rolls off checks much better than he did at the beginning of the season. He's able to protect himself much better. He's winning the one-on-one board battles with more frequency. He's able to shake and bake with his back to a player and make a crisp backhand pass over to Alex Newhook, who then finds Oliver Kapanen for his 20th goal of the season and $250,000 in his pocket with that goal.
Thank you.
But that we'll get on how that carryover bonus is going to affect the Habs in another episode. I really, and then when put on the first line, the creativity, the chemistry that he has with Slavkovsky jumps right out at you. Absolutely great watching two wingers being able to dance around and not need Nick Suzuki to drive the play. It really was interesting to me. And I thought Nick played a good game yesterday as well, but he wasn't asked to be the driver. He was busy shutting down the Matthews line. And did anybody notice Austin Matthews yesterday at 5-on-5?
Yeah,
exactly.
Dude, he had 2 shots on goal, and the Leafs were getting some power play looks. He had one from in tight that Dobes was able to turn away, but I definitely noticed Nylander more. I noticed Matthew Nyes more. Michelli was all over the place, maybe the most dangerous player there. But honestly, I left a little disappointed in Austin Matthews, who every time he touched the puck, the Habs put booze on him.
Yeah, I mean, you know how the Leafs fans feel this year in regards to him. One of the things I really enjoyed, and you guys didn't see this on TV, but prior to the start of the game, they announced the starting lineup for the opposing team before we get to like the anthems and all that. They announced Austin Matthews, they announced Morgan Riley, they announced everyone. And when Matthew Nyes' name came up, he got like a nice loud cheer.
I love it.
So I just want to say you guys are awesome.
I love
those
that.
that were at the game. You guys are awesome.
I love that.
I noticed Matthew Nyes. I thought Matthew Nyes was fantastic.
Yeah.
Easton Cowan.
Oh,
there's a reason why he is untouchable for the Leafs. Easton Cowan.
Gallagher touched him up pretty good.
I know that was a really funny sequence in general. The battle of the bald spots, which coming from me is like a tip of the cap.
Yeah, me too. I feel you, brother.
Well, you're fine. You're in your late 40s and you still have hair. Don't complain. But I love
40s. Oh.
I'm so sorry to bring that up. I really did enjoy the game from Easton Cowan. I think he's one of the few bright spots they have coming up in general. But when it comes to the Canadiens, I just feel like at 5-on-5, it wasn't ever in doubt against the Leafs. It was more Joe Woll, who was just out of this world clutch for the Leafs. If you were playing, I don't know, an average NHL goaltender in that situation, the Canadiens win last night's game like 5 or 6-1.
Probably.
And he saved 3 goals above expected. So probably 5-4 or 5-1.
Mm-hmm.
That's nuts.
Let's clean up this question here quickly before we move on from Dan. Marco talking about the call-ups. We were talking about Jakub FOWLER. If you're just joining us, yes, the Canadiens at 10 o'clock this morning made the news, or shortly before 10, that Jakub FOWLER has been recalled. Will join the team in Ottawa tonight. Marco expects him to start after 7:30. Habs at Sens. Would Hage be one of the 5 call-ups, or is the NCAA different than what we referenced earlier?
So a call-up is a player that is in Laval or in the American Hockey League that you are recalling. When you sign a player out of the NCAA, it's not considered a recall. It's considered a signing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the only exception of a player that is not on your roster at the trade deadline that would be eligible for the playoffs. But it is not considered a recall. But you have to have the necessary cap space to sign him, or else the contract can't take effect that season. That is going to be something that we're going to be addressing on the show tomorrow. So be sure to set your notifications, like, and subscribe, because that is going to be one key element that all Habs fans are going to have to keep an eye on as we get into, early to mid-April.
Yeah, we're all going to learn something about Michael Hage. So make sure, as Marco mentioned, like and subscribe and get ready for tomorrow's video drop on Michael Hage. Of course, members of the channel will get to see it first, and happy to see a couple of new members have joined the community. And one of the big perks that comes with that is obviously priority comments and access to videos earlier than usual. I want to put this comment up here from Diane. Thanks for being with us, Diane. Love to see you in the chat community. Talking about Demidov, on the chance that he helped create that resulted in Oliver Kapanen's 20th. But Marco, you were there and got to speak to him after the game last night. As Diane points out, Demidov also brushed off the credit for that in the post-game interview. Love the combination of humility and competitiveness in the player. I mean, that's a pretty astute observation, and you were there next to him.
Yep. Well, I asked the question.
Yeah.
So, there are 2 people I look at fondly like that. My son and Ivan Demidov. Just because of the way things went down last year when he got signed, you always have a player that professionally you relate to. I relate to Ivan in that regard. Yeah. And he was really humble. He was just like, I don't feel like I'm doing anything different. Once the cameras went away, I was like, you've clearly improved in that regard. He's like, yeah. It's about Cappy. Cappy scored 20. Like, that's what counts. And I was like, did you know that you created the play that got Kapanen $250,000 in bonuses because he got a Schedule A bonus from getting 20 goals?
Yeah.
And he's like, what, really?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. He's like, well, dinner's on him then.
That's right. No kidding. Yeah.
But it's always fun to see, because it's difficult, especially as a teenager, man. Like, the kid's 20. And to come out and face the media, face this face, and just have a conversation as transparent as possible, and just say, like, he was just part of the play, as opposed to everybody being like, you controlled the play, you made that play. He's like, well, I was a cog in the wheel, and it wasn't possible without the great pass from Newhook, which is accurate, very accurate, and then the great move from Oliver Kapanen to go from forehand to basically half spinorama and then to the front of the net for the goal. I thought that was an incredible play from top to bottom.
Yeah.
So to me, I like the player. I think he has the personality to be the star on this team for a decade more. And my hot take, I wouldn't be surprised if he has his own extension in place by the time Canadiens come in for the first game of the season.
I just want to clarify this here for a second for somebody. Yesterday's show was not on the Apple Podcast streaming service. Hopefully tomorrow's show is. I mean, I have it on. It probably doesn't do any justice, but
it's that is like Snow White. I couldn't even see that.
Yeah, we have the video of the topic that Marco and I covered on the potential call-up of Jakub FOWLER and David Reinbacher that we put out yesterday. That's been downloaded almost 1,500 times. That's there. And the one before that, when Marco speculated on the Matthew Nyes situation as being the mystery player. So all the episodes lately have been up on the Apple Podcasts and Spotify and iHeartRadio too. So if you ever miss an episode, the fallback on the audio side, if you're driving around and you want Starr and D'Amico with you, all of these episodes you kindly watch with us here on YouTube are available on your audio podcast platforms. And a reminder that Starr and D'Amico is also on TSN 690 Monday nights, starting at 7 o'clock. So lots of ways to consume the content, and we appreciate how much you guys have our backs in that context. As we look forward to the Ottawa game tonight, again, going back to Cole Caulfield, Marco, was it Arpin Basu who asked for clarification and followed up by saying, is he going to make the trip? And Martin St. Louis' answer was, I believe he is. Any sense one way or the other that the illness might keep Caulfield out of the game tonight?
I don't think so, or else he wouldn't have traveled with the team.
Okay.
That's what I've understood.
Yeah.
That's what I've understood as of right now is I don't see why he wouldn't play. I think he was under the weather, maybe a good night's sleep and it's done. We'll see what happens as it goes. We'll get more information on that as we get closer to 5 p.m.
Travis is offended. By the way, Travis, I hope you've liked and subscribed to the channel today. We appreciate it. Considering that, we're out here doing an hour's worth of content, it's okay to be reminded of that every now and again, but we appreciate the input. Constructive criticism or any other form of criticism is always welcome here on Starr and D'Amico. Again, back to last night. I mean, the power play has been so good for this team, Marco. Not very threatening with their 2 power plays in the third period. Anything that jumped out that you want to see them correct going into the Ottawa game today?
Stop looking for the prettiest play and just get the puck in.
They're such a pretty team, brother. They are such a pretty team.
In the playoffs, man, you're gonna have to be a little bit more of a dog.
Yeah. And it's funny too. Mark Denis was talking on TSN 690 about how they were playing, and I don't know if some of those, those habits showed up against Toronto. But when you look at how Tampa's playing, how Buffalo is playing, there's some tightening up, right, that needs to go on here with this Canadiens team as they gear up for the playoffs.
Absolutely. And to me, defensively, especially on the PK. Although I felt like they did a good job yesterday, but defensively and offensively, I feel like just being a little bit more decisive. There's a lot of hesitancy. I don't know if it's from a lack of confidence or just the fact that it's up and down or that maybe goaltending has been a little shaky. I don't know. But what I can say is they've looked good, I guess, in pockets. If they could find consistency in that regard, I think they'll be in a better place. But it all depends on health. Like defensively, I just didn't like seeing Kaiden Guhle playing on the right.
Yeah.
He didn't play on the right. He played on the left. I thought he had a much better game last night. Lane Hudson, to me, is the only left-handed defenseman they have that can adequately play the right without his game dropping.
Isn't that crazy to you, though?
No.
that he could. I mean, in hindsight, knowing the player that he is, but you're 100% right. I mean, for the guy to be able to do that, to go on the other side and really not look out of place to the point where it affects his game, whereas obviously Kaiden Guhle struggles in that department. That's fair to say. Yeah,
I just Kaiden Guhle is because I just don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a balance issue. I don't know if it's something that stemmed from the severity of his groin issue, and it's going to require more of an off-season training of the, I would say, core muscles to really kind of find that balance again in his skating and whatnot. But the pivots and the play along the boards and all that, I just feel like when he plays, it's a little bit more difficult when he's on the right side. Whereas I found like being on his stronger left side, he was hitting more. The execution was quicker because he had that half second on his strong forehand to make the exit passes. I don't have an issue with it. I think that it's fine. The only thing that I would consider is as you get into the playoffs, or as you push for the playoffs, you have to find stability there. And I feel like last night, limiting Toronto and the shots that they like less than 20 shots, I think is ridiculous. It's a good because they took their fair share of shots, but the Canadiens blocked shots. They directed them to the outside. I think they have the ability to do so, but I could only really evaluate that against teams that are actually viable for playoff contention. So, for example, I think you get a better sample of the understanding of where they're at playing the Ottawa Senators rather than watching how they play against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I'm going to try to do this here. I'm probably going to fudge this up. This is this aesthetically is not going to look great, but I'm going to do it anyway, courtesy of our friend Renaud Lavoie, who has the footage here of Jakub FOWLER getting at practice, ready to rock and roll. Let me see if I could do this here. There we go. Yeah, I did it. So again, courtesy of Renaud Lavoie on Twitter, as Jakub FOWLER is in Ottawa with the Montreal Canadiens and getting ready. I mean, there he is. Exciting stuff to see what happens with Jakub FOWLER. Again, if you're just joining us, the call up. So there we go. I was able to pull that off rather harmlessly, Marco. I'm very proud of myself. Thank you very much.
That was flawless, bud.
Hey, by the way, if Arbor Jacki were an NFL player, he'd get the flag thrown for a chop block there when he took that penalty. I'm not sure what he was doing, but I'll be honest, I was surprised and maybe come to the defense of Martin St. Louis after an egregious giveaway Saturday against the LA Kings and tripping to try to recover from the mistake that MSL put him right back out there. Nice. I thought that was a vote of confidence. No?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like I thought he had a strong first period.
Yeah.
And then it kind of unfortunately went to the wayside in the second. But, I think, for what he does, it's as long as he can maintain mistake free. I liked what I saw from Arbor in general. Mm-hmm. So I'm not willing to say, bad on you. But yeah, that penalty, you can kind of tell that penalty got Toronto's mojo going, and they were able to get back in the game accordingly.
Well, that's what happens, right? I mean,
his on ice play was not problematic for me. Just two questionable plays. Other than that, I thought he was fine.
From Darcy, if FOWLER is the starter for this game, it will be even more intense. I mean, Marco, this game, if you weren't already amplified for the game with the prospect of Jakub FOWLER, makes it a little bit more exciting, no?
This is a 4-point game for both teams.
Yes. If the Canadiens win, can you forget about Ottawa catching the Habs in the standings?
Well, you can't mathematically do so, but especially with the injury to Sanderson to top it off, Ottawa too doesn't have a very friendly schedule, so it's gonna be. There's no gimmies at this point. There's no gimmies, and I feel like the Canadiens. It's unfortunate if they had a little bit more luck or a little bit more goaltending assistance, would probably be second in the Atlantic Division right now, if not first.
Yeah. And I don't know what you think. What are you seeing here? Buffalo, it was an interesting night for the Canadiens on the out-of-town scoreboard. If we go over some of the games very quickly, from what we saw, thanks to Carter Verhaeghe for doing Habs Nation a little bit of a solid there. With the goalie pulled, Florida is able to come back, score a couple of goals in 90 seconds. And
that was clutch.
That was absolutely huge. The Bruins beat the LA Kings in a tight game. A nice goal from Charlie McAvoy for the winner. The Sabres do what they've been doing. They get into fights and they win hockey games. The Columbus Blue Jackets, can we stop there for a second? They kind of handled the Tampa Bay Lightning. We saw John Cooper last week kind of read his team the riot act a little bit on the bench, getting in their face a little bit. And the Lightning right now haven't responded, and the Canadiens are within arm's length of the Lightning for second place in the division.
Anything could happen. We're talking about 2 to 4 point spread.
Yeah.
Right. And it just takes one good week and one bad week for the other team, and you're one on top of the other. The one thing that I think is interesting is if the Canadiens are able to win this game against the Senators, it makes it less likely if the Canadiens stay in the 2 to 3 in the Atlantic or first wild card, it makes it unlikely that a Metropolitan Division team would pass them. Because the way that it looks right now, if Columbus keeps winning, they may just swap with one of the Islanders or the Penguins at this rate, as opposed to putting Montreal down a peg, or Boston for that matter. I don't know. And I think when it comes to when it comes to Detroit, injuries are something you're going to have to look at. Ottawa
100%.
Injuries is something you're going to have to look at. Montreal's been fine. They seem to have faced their injury bug at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
So if they could stay healthy and continue along and push for the playoffs, I think there is a world where the Canadiens don't have to wait for the 82nd game of the season to qualify this year.
That'd be fun.
A world.
Speaking of the Metro Division, the St. Louis Blues blew a 3-0 lead on home ice on a Matthew Barzal overtime winner. What a goal it was, too. Logan Mailloux kind of fanning at the puck as Barzal, with the speed, was able to get the Islanders over the line and collect the 2 points. And DeMarco's point that, it would look a lot differently today with Columbus's 5-2 win over the Tampa Bay Lightning. That would have left the Islanders on 77 points and the Blue Jackets on 76 points, 1 point back of third place in the Metro Division. So it's going to be an absolute wild ride. Are you having fun this season? Seeing all the parity? Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all hockey fans. At the end of the day, we're all here because
the parity. I think what I've enjoyed this year is I feel like this year is the year of resurgence.
Interesting.
It's the year where we've seen the most amount of teams that have been in kind of a rebuild process really take that step. I feel like San Jose, even if they don't make the playoffs, San Jose took a step. As much as Canadiens fans want to ring the bells of panic, I feel like Montreal took a step.
Yes.
I feel like Buffalo got put on a rocket ship to the moon.
Yeah.
I feel like the Utah Mammoth have taken a step. I feel like the Anaheim Ducks have taken a step. And in doing so, I feel like the teams that have sat on the top or in the middle for the longest time with those aging cores where the teams refuse to retool or get ahead of it are now all suffering. The New York Rangers, the Vancouver Canucks, the Calgary Flames, the St. Louis Blues, those are the Winnipeg Jets. Those are the teams that are now being forced to look reality in the mirror. And it's the teams that were savvy in the way that they rebuilt and did what they needed to do to acquire the elite talent that are rising. What I think is going to be the most interesting now is how are they going to manage their cap structure so they stay on top with that elite talent. And I don't think, I think there are maybe 4 teams that I would say are so well positioned for that. And that Montreal, Buffalo, Anaheim, and Utah. After that, I am very, very interested to see what happens in San Jose. Once San Jose gets to the point where they got to sign Celebrini, which they can do as of the summer, Will Smith, which they can do as of the summer, that will set the tone for their entire salary structure. And then, because they signed Kiefer Sherwood for almost $6 million, 5.75, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting because maybe that contract becomes problematic towards the end of it because he'll be 37 by then, or 36, sorry, by then. What are they going to give as a contract to Celebrini? And the same, mind you, can be said of the Chicago Blackhawks. They've handled their salary structure quite well, but it will all be dependent on what Connor Bedard signs for.
Yeah. And with that context, it's funny. You said a couple of things there. I'll be curious to see
many things.
It's interesting though. The Pittsburgh Penguins, right? With the type of team they're going to be next year. They lost another shootout. I love stats. I love, these weird stat lines. The Penguins lost another shootout. They're 1 for 10 in shootouts this season. You talk about the Utah Mammoth as a team you're looking for. The only team in the NHL that hasn't gone to a shootout at any point this deep into the season. Weird stuff. I love stuff like that. I don't know why. It kind of stands out to me. But okay. To that end, right? You talk about the parity in the league. I'm having fun watching this season. I love the drama. And I like maybe a little bit of a changing of the guard, but I mean, how much of that? I have to believe a lot of, what the Canadiens have done, whether you think they're on track, ahead of schedule with this rebuild, knowing that they still have some pieces to complete the puzzle. that had to be a huge motivating factor, right? To call up Jakub FOWLER, to look at where they are in the Atlantic, to look at where they are in the Eastern Conference and saying, you know what, right now our goaltending's not good enough. We have another option. That had, based on where they are competitively, that was a big motivating factor, wasn't it?
I think I think it would be a disservice to this team's young core, because let's call a spade a spade. It's this team's young core that's pulled this team ahead, right?
Yeah.
The Canadiens' bottom six, I respect everybody that's there, but probably one of the most underperforming bottom sixes in the NHL. So you want to give this young core, you want to make sure that they're in a position where they're going to be able to compete and be in a playoff setting, because you want that experience for them. And so, yes, I understand Jakub FOWLER. I understand what they're trying to do. And, you know, if that gives them the best chance to win right now, then so be it. But you can't, like, I understand, like again, this question keeps coming up. The reason why there's 3 goalies is because they can't waive anybody else. You can't send Montebourg Laval anymore. It's finito. If they wanted to do that, they had to do it last Thursday. Finished. So why 3 goalies? Because they want to make the playoffs and they can't play Jakub Dobes every single game. So who's the second best goalie in the organization right now? Jakub FOWLER. I understand it. It's cheeky, it's ballsy. But again, can they even call up Hage if FOWLER is already there? Hage is being signed. It's not a call up. Number one. And number two, we were going to answer this question tomorrow.
Correct. Morgan asks, what are the odds the Canadiens buy out some players this offseason?
The Canadiens at this moment have $14 million in salary cap space for this summer. They have 15 NHL forwards. So I think there's going to be some bodies that are either going to be traded or I would be shocked that the Canadiens would buy out.
Right.
I would be shocked. I think it will be in the form of trade. And we'll go from
there. Habs chat, is Monty sitting with Lonnie the rest of the season?
I cannot confirm nor deny, nor is it my spot to answer this question.
Yeah. Who's the other goaltender going to be in Laval now that Jakub FOWLER's with the Montreal Canadiens in Ottawa tonight?
They just called up, why am I blanking on his name? Hunter is his name?
From the East Coast?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I forget. Man, I'm blanking. Oh, boy. Guys, I'm really tired. I'm so sorry. But
a long night. Marco got home around 1 a.m. after covering the Canadiens.
Well, I covered the Canadiens, and then I went to the hospital to see my son, and then I went home. So it's been a day.
Really,
Hunter Jones.
You can go that late. That's wild.
Well, parents can go 24 hours to neonatal,
sick.
So it's all good. Hunter Jones is the goalie that was called up this morning.
Okay. One question on Macklin Celebrini: is this guy looking at a $15 million contract?
Well, Macklin Celebrini, unlike Lane Hudson, for example, is eligible for an offer sheet.
Yeah.
But he's not a restricted free agent this summer. It's the next summer. He's eligible to sign an extension as of the 1st of July. Now, am I going to say he's going to sign a $15 million contract? I don't think we see a player do that in yet. Of all the players in the NHL, I think 2 have the potential to have a $15 million contract outside of their entry-level contract. 2. Celebrini and Schaefer. Those are the only 2 that I think that could possibly get there, because by the time Celebrini gets to restricted free agency status, the cap will be at $115 million.
Yeah.
So he'll be right there in the, I'm doing quick math here, ladies and gentlemen, but about 12% of the salary cap is exactly what I would expect for him.
I wonder.
And then when Schaefer reaches RFA status, it'll actually be at $127 million is what we're getting in terms of current projections. Ivan Demidov, just to give you an idea, is not eligible for offer sheets, is not eligible for arbitration. And so his negotiation power is lessened. I'm going to do it for a 3rd time in this show, Shaun, and then I think, we call it a day. But I would be floored on the floor.
The number 3.
If Ivan Demidov signs for more than $10 million this summer.
Yeah. That would kind of buck the trend a little bit. What about Kirby Dach and his future RFA after this year?
Kirby Dach is a very interesting case because Kirby Dach has a $4 million qualifying offer. Yeah. That means if the Canadiens sign him, it cannot be for less than $4 million if they were to qualify to retain his rights. And if you're him, you accept that qualifying offer right away. What I'd like to see is what the plan is. The Canadiens can go two routes. They could trade him. They could qualify him and pay him $4 million a year. Or they could choose not to qualify him and then circle back and sign him without the restriction of what the qualifying offer says if Kirby Dach is in agreement. Nope. I will not be giving a prediction on the number that Demidov signs. I just would be, considering the information that I heard regarding Lane Hudson negotiation, I would be floored.
Yeah. Eh?
If he signs for more than 10.
Interesting. All right. Good stuff. So it's game day. Montreal Canadiens at the Ottawa Senators. People liking your nope, not happening. On the floor, not happening.
On the floor.
No guesses. No guesses. So, all right, to wrap it up here, Marco, you stand by, you believe. Floor reference number 1 for those that joined us in the first couple of minutes of today's show. We're over 1,000 viewers here, 61 minutes in. Thank you so much for being with us.
Wow, you guys are awesome.
Earmuffs, Travis. Like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.
29 more subscribers to go.
Jacob
I'm
Fowler.
Really sorry.
Tonight.
I had to. I'm sorry.
No,
it's the last time I mentioned it. It's the last time I mentioned it.
Here. We do. We make no apologies.
I got kids.
I
have one.
Jacob Fowler, brother. Jacob Fowler tonight.
Man, when I spoke to him on Sunday, he looks so dialed.
Yeah.
Like this kid, like it's just he has that personality to play in this market.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be interested to see where he ends up. But I wouldn't be surprised if he puts on a performance tonight. Wouldn't be surprised at all.
All right, Habs and Sens just after 7:30 tonight.
Thank you, Bernard.
Merci beaucoup, Bernard. Thank you so much. Thanks for all the love and support in the chat today. Should be a good game tonight, man. Yeah, and I mean, swag for sure, no doubt, right?
That's coming. We will have information on this as of next month. Don't worry about it. We will get to you. Yeah, well, more than that.
Yeah, I know.
There's more.
I mean, you guys like this stuff? I mean, would you wear this to Costco on Saturday morning? I mean, I wear mine if I go on a run and stuff like that.
Dude, I get recognized at Costco on Saturday mornings when I wear this. People come up to me, why is Liney not traded? And my wife is there, and I'm just like, I just want to buy some chicken and salmon. I don't know.
Dude, I was in like the I made the dreaded mistake very quickly here. I made the dreaded mistake last week of going to Costco for a couple of things. And I was, I like to browse all the aisles, generally. And I'm in one of the aisles and Buddy stops me. Somebody stopped me. And he's like, what happened to the trade deadline? Why didn't they make a move? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I appreciate the support. Don't be shy. Don't be shy to stop.
I love it when people come up to me. I love it. I will take the time to chat. I'd love to know who you guys are all the time. So please, if you see me in public, don't be shy. It was more for my wife who was like, what is going on here?
Well, that's what happens.
Yeah, no worries. What was I going to say? Yes. One day it'll come out what went down at the trade deadline. But the only thing I'm going to tell you is I can assure you that Kent Hughes didn't sit on his hands. If he did what he wanted to do, y'all would be praising him.
I agree.
Like it's no tomorrow. And I have no business, pro or con, into promoting what Kent Hughes did. But if what I heard is what was going to happen, it was going to be big. That's all I could say about that subject.
I wonder who Toronto wants for Matthew Nice.
We'll leave that for another episode.
I wonder who they want for Matthew Nice.
We'll leave that for another episode, but it was a lot.
Let me ask you this question very quickly here. What's the bigger need for the Canadiens today? Robert Thomas or Matthew Nice? If you had to pick one or the other to fill a void for the Canadiens.
What's the biggest need?
Yeah, the bigger need today to fill one spot.
The only way I can answer that question is if I figure out what kind of a player in the NHL Michael Hage is going to be.
Okay.
If Michael Hage is going to be a center, nice. If Michael Hage is going to be a right winger and a good one at that, Thomas. I hope you enjoyed this TED Talk, but that's basically the Canadiens have confirmed that Jacob Fowler will be starting.
I just saw that. Saw that second. This stupid screen.
Oh, and Nick Schmaltz signs an 8-year, $8 million deal with the Utah Mammoth. That is
there you go.
Massive.
There you go.
Latest information I had is they were looking for $10 million on that deal, so they had to come down quite a bit.
They're doing something interesting in Utah, huh? It's a good deal.
Yeah, well, I mean, Utah came pretty close on the Robert Thomas talks too, man. If they had a player like that, whoo!
Yep. All right, so Jacob Fowler, if Marco the Insider was right, Fowler's starting tonight, baby. Okay. They must believe this guy is such a gamer, so ready, right? I mean,
this is going to be the fourth time I say it on this episode. The Canadiens cannot waive a player at this stage of the season anymore.
Well, we're over 1,000 people. People jump in and jump out, so
that's why I'm taking the time to repeat it. I want to make sure that everybody is aware. You cannot waive a player at this stage anymore. The only players that could be sent to Laval are players that were on Laval's roster as of the trade deadline. And that is how we're going to end the show.
It's Fowler time, baby. Enjoy the game tonight. We'll be here to recap it. We're here tomorrow after the Habs game.
We should.
All right, brother. Huh?
We should be.
All right. Good stuff, man. Thank you.
Have a good day, everybody, and thank you again for being part of the show.